Open Your Eyes is brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.
Welcome to Open Your Eyes.
Start your morning right.
I'm Marlene Koyar.
I'm Misana Kayasano.
And thank you for joining us this morning.
Man, I'd like to say that I'm off to a good start this morning, Marlene. But I'm still trying to get my bearings together.
That's right.
It's Monday. We're back to work.
That's right.
The strike continues. There's a lot that's happening.
That is absolutely true. There's a whole lot to get into today. And in fact, we'll be picking up on the conversation about the ongoing impasse between government and the unions. That's going to be part of our conversation for today. But you know what? Everybody is buzzing about your favorite topic, Miss Universe.
I think I was watching parts of it last night.
I knew you had to watch it, as much as you don't like pageants, right? You're not a true Belizean unless you watch pageants.
See, I was at an establishment, and I looked up at the screen, and I think I caught the bikini, the swimsuit part of it.
Oh.
That's as far as...
Okay, yeah, that's the part that you caught. Real interesting.
No, I am serial for not following pageants, not on the national stage, not on the international stage. It's just not my thing. I don't know. It's just one of those things that, you know, has never really caught my attention that kind of way.
That's fine. That's fine. Sometimes you're in the minority of things, and that's what happens. But in general, you know, we love pageants in Belize. We've seen this time and time again, whether it's Queen of the Bay or the local Miss Universe, or of course when our contestant goes up on the international stage. And last night we saw Iris Delgado take the stage wearing the sash, Belize across her chest. She did not place in the top 21 that was selected at the start of the pageant last night. And at the end, our neighbor, Miss Mexico, was crowned Miss Universe Belize. Miss Universe, sorry.
Miss Universe,
yeah.
I think I was, like as I was saying earlier, I was at the establishment, and my friend kept saying, "There goes Miss Belize." Like, well, it was so fast, like, you know, it's like in flashes, you know. By the time I looked up around to another contestant, it's just, you know, but congratulations to Miss Mexico for placing, and becoming the new Miss Universe. For Belize, it's one of those things where we keep trying, you know.
And we will. I think that's there's something about the pageant, and I know there's going to be a lot of discussion about it today, and everyone has their opinion about it. For me, I think the fundamental point is when people step out and they represent us internationally, they are our ambassadors, and they deserve our support. We have this habit of tearing down people and you know, nitpicking, and we know where we are and what we come from, and we know what we're competing against. We don't have the type of structures in place where girls are training from their, you know, teens to be able to represent in pageants. And so we do what we can, but she was an exceptional representation for us. We saw her in quite a few of the snippets. She also participated in conversations with the contestants about gender-based violence, and you know, I think, and was very well spoken. So she represented us well, and it was still great to see her on stage. We will get there someday, but we must support our contestants.
Definitely.
Yeah. What was interesting too is the number of countries. It was really concentrated for the most part in this region. You had Mexico, you had Dominican Republic, you had Nicaragua, you had Jamaica, and that's not very common. Of course, you had the big countries too, but it was nice to see your neighbors also represent.
Yeah. The only thing I can remember from my short glances was the fact that, again, the pageant, because when I looked up a couple of times, I was told it's the guy from Saved by the Bell who was hosting. So I said, okay, yeah, Mario Lopez.
You absolutely dated yourself there. I won't even say anything more. All right. But moving on to other topics, of course, there's a lot to discuss, and we want to get into some news issues as well. So we're going to get into our motivation at this time, and that means it's time for Eye Opener. Our Eye Opener, taken from dailyom.com, goes like this. We are not our decisions, and no decision is wrong because we made the choice with the information at hand. Our perception of the traits and characteristics that make us who we are is often tightly intertwined with how we live our life. We define ourselves in terms of the roles we adopt, or actions and inactions, or triumphs, and what we think are failures. As a result, it is easy to identify so strongly with a decision that has resulted in unexpected negative consequences that we actually become that wrong decision. The disappointment and shame we feel when we make what we perceive as a mistake grows until it becomes a dominant part of our identities. We rationalize our poor decisions by labeling ourselves incompetent decision makers. However, your true identity cannot be defined by your choices. Your essence, what makes you a unique entity, exists independently of your decision-making process. A perceived mistake becomes a valuable learning experience and is, in essence, a gift to learn and grow from. You are not a bad person, and you are not your decisions. You are simply human.
This is an interesting one. Dare I say a tough one, actually. Simply because growing up, we are taught that, in life you have choices. And so that while the eye-opener is saying that you're not necessarily defined by those choices, you are faced with circumstances on a daily basis in which you have to determine what course of action you're going to take. Yeah. And that then becomes the choice that you make in the moment, and in some cases, those choices or those decisions are permanent, they're lasting. So for the eye-opener to say that you're not necessarily the decisions that you make, when you're faced with a situation, Marlene, and say, do I do this or do I do that? You're prepared to face the consequences of that decision one way or the other, right? And so if it's like a life or death decision, or if it's, do I get married, do I not get married, do I choose to go to school, do I prefer this job over the other, do I walk away from the job, whatever it is, those decisions follow you. And so that if you make a series of questionable decisions, then you look at yourself as, perhaps I'm a failure, or perhaps, the decisions that I'm making are not well informed, that puts me in a particular situation. Now, if I am to look at myself, if I am to say, here is where I am, and these are the decisions that I've made that have gotten me to where I am. You look at that and you say, well, it's a mixture of good choices and bad choices.
Of course, yeah.
And the thing about it is to be able to accept it for what it is. Because you take a decision, oftentimes there's a certain risk that comes along with it.
Yeah.
Will it work out in my favor? Is this the decision that's going to take me over the edge? Or is this the decision that's going to set me back far enough that I'm, back to square one? Mm. And so I personally, I don't look at myself as being the decision. I look at myself as, the decision is going to affect not only me, but other people around me based on how well informed I am in terms of making that decision.
No, I think this eye-opener is just, this is just the perfect way to start your week. It is one of those things that we must repeatedly put into perspective. Mm-hmm. And there are big decisions, as you outlined, that I think people can automatically identify with But in reality, there are hundreds of decisions you make every single day that add up and help and begin to be a part of who you deem yourself to be. Your decision to push through, to wake up on time, your decision to get on up and go out and exercise as you committed to, the decision to eat healthy or make a healthy choice when you said that you would, the decision to work harder even when you're tired, the decision to do something even when you don't feel like it. These are all part of decisions that we make in the moment that add up and really help to shape us into our being. You become that person that's unreliable every time you make the decision to not follow through with a commitment. And so it is important that we're able to recognize how important decision-making skills are in our life. And we don't learn that. I don't know if you ever remember in a life skills class or anything about how to make the right decisions or how to make decisions when you don't have all the information, because that's also a tough part. You can sit and wait and say, well, I don't know enough to make a decision, but that's just how it is. You have to do that. But identifying that sometimes, even with all the information at hand, even with a well thought out process, we may make the wrong one. That's where it's important to recover. It's important to see it as a stepping stone or a lesson or information that you've now gathered for when you have to make that decision again. So you may not know what you're going to do, but you're going to know what not to do again. And that in itself is an important lesson to walk away with.
What I love most about the eye-opener is the very last line where it says, you're only human, right?
You are.
It goes back to what I was saying initially, the fact that the choices that you make aren't always the best choices. When you look back at everything, it's a combination of both. And that's how you learn, because along the way you'll make some decisions that you'll regret, but that's what you learn from those decisions that you make, that you can come back and say, well, I shouldn't have done that, or I shouldn't have taken that course of action, but I've learned this much from that mistake, if that were the case.
That's right.
And that's what makes us who we are.
That's right. So we really hope that that this eye-opener resonated with you and that it will help you move through your week. Maybe you made some bad decisions last week. All right, you got to be able to move past it. It's not who you are. You're not a perpetual bad decision maker. You can make excellent decisions today. And don't forget that all the little decisions are important as well, and you won't always get it perfect.
Yeah.
All right, moving on now to our weather for today. If I could just guess what that's going to be, it's probably hot.
It says here, the general weather situation calls for fair and warm weather to prevail. And the 24-hour forecast also calls for skies to be mostly sunny. And tonight the skies will be partly cloudy with shower activities that are going to be isolated.
All right, our winds are going to be moving from the east at 5 to 15 knots, and the sea state are going to be light chop. Or high temperatures for today are going to be
88 degrees along the coast, 96 degrees inland, and 84 degrees Fahrenheit in the hills.
For tonight, we're looking at 80 along the coast, 74 inland, and 66 in the hills. And our outlook?
Our outlook for Tuesday and Tuesday night is for partly cloudy skies with isolated showers and the chance of inland afternoon thunderstorms developing.
Okay. All right. And we want to thank our forecaster, Catherine Cumberbatch, there at the National Met Service of Belize, for putting together today's forecast. Still very much on the warm side.
That's good. We're not complaining.
All right. And we do want to remind everyone as we move into the second half of May that we must start to put our plans together for the upcoming hurricane season. The hurricane season officially starts on June 1st, but we know that it is not uncommon for us to see storms before the start of the hurricane season. It is a really challenging time to think of planning ahead for something like this, but if you can begin with just putting a few things away a little at a time, it's going to make all the difference if we do face the threat of a storm. All right, and with that, it is time for us to take a look at the stories coming out from last week and some of the things we're looking forward to in the week ahead. So let's shift gears to Eye on the News.
So, several weeks ago, perhaps 2 weeks or so ago, Cabinet decided that it will move with the green lighting for casinos to reopen. And so there was quite a bit of a drive for employees of the various casinos. And in this case, we're speaking directly to the Princess Casino here in Belize City, where they took upon themselves the initiative to have all the employees or most of the employees vaccinated. And these would be the employees who are on the ground in the casino, took their first shot and what have you. And when the casinos were allowed to reopen, you would recall that the athletes in the various disciplines of sports sort of, had an issue with the fact that casinos are being allowed to reopen, but, they can't go back to their respective sports and do their training and what have you. But the irony of the situation is that over the course of the weekend, a memo came out, because initially it was being rumored, but then the Ministry of Health and Wellness came out officially to say that there has been an outbreak of COVID-19 at the Princess Casino, which has forced its closure for deep cleaning and, of course, for contact tracing and all the other measures to be put in place to determine how grave, if I may, the situation is. What we do know, however, Marlene, is the fact that as many as 21 persons have tested positive for COVID-19 at that particular establishment. And so how far or how detailed the contact tracing exercise will be, we're yet to determine that. What we do know as well is that casinos are frequented by quite a number of Belizeans, and the level of exposure in this case is yet to be determined. It's one of those things where when you think about it and when you look at it, you're saying to yourself, well, people go to the casino at all hours. The casinos open during the day and up until curfew. But the point that I'm making is there's a lot of people traffic through there, right? And so it has the potential to be a super spreader situation. We don't know what the extent of it is at this point, as I'm saying. A contact tracing exercise is underway to determine exactly what the full extent of it is.
Well, I think today the question and some of the clarity that we're looking forward to is to understand how many more cases were identified. As far as we know, the 21 confirmed were from staff members who've been tested up to that point. Those who were not working have had to be tested as well, so there may be more cases coming out from this specific event. I do want to say it's really important to acknowledge that the Ministry of Health and Wellness did in fact get in front of this and put the information out there. Because when this information is leaked and it starts to spread, it really very easily becomes much bigger than it is, and all the other speculations that come along with it. So they did offer some very important details, some critical points there. Of the 21, 17 are asymptomatic. Now, that's concerning because that means these people were very healthy looking. They probably went home, spent time with their family, their loved ones, their friends, and they did not know that they had COVID-19. And we all know the potential for asymptomatic people to spread the disease to others without knowing. This is a very concerning situation when you think of the number of people, you're right, who traffic through the casinos. Now, I know there were specific COVID protocols that had to be put in place. And there are some positives in the fact that you actually have to kind of present an ID before you go into the casino. So there should be a record of who's been going into the casino since they have detected the cases. But when these people go home, that's where the challenge is. That's where the potential for spread is. And it is, I'm hoping that we're going to hear more from the Ministry of Health today as to how they're going to contain the situation, because it definitely has potential for an exponential spread within the next few days. The question as to how many of these persons who tested positive had in fact received their first dose of vaccine is another one that has to be answered. But it does, and this is an absolute guess because I'm not sure. Had all the employees gotten the first dose, this is such a critical reminder to all the rest of us. We are not fully protected, myself included, until after a few weeks of receiving the second dose of the vaccine. And we're still expected to continue with all the protocols that we're asked to do. Wear the mask, watch the distance, and wash the hands. And that's because you still have the potential of spreading the disease. So when we do get an answer to that, it will bring us more clarity. Maybe they weren't vaccinated. I can't say with certainty. But if they were, it is just a critical time, because I do find that as we see the numbers going down, we all get a bit more relaxed.
Yeah.
We all start thinking, oh, well, not that many people have it, so it's probably safe. But it's not. And this is just take a look at what's happening in other parts of the world as they battle their third and second outbreaks.
You look at what's happening in India, for instance.
Yeah. So it is, we're gonna get as much information on this as we can to keep you updated. But please, as you wake up and you go about your day, whether you're going to the office, or you're going out shopping, or you have to run some errands, please keep in mind that we are not out of the woods with this pandemic, and we must keep up all the protocols as we move forward.
While we're on the topic of the pandemic, last week, towards the end of last week, the Centers for Disease Control in the United States came forward to say that persons who are fully vaccinated can now move around without the use of a mask. That's indoors and that's outdoors.
Yeah.
And so it would be interesting what bearing or what effect that would have on our decision locally, because we're now at the point where persons have already taken their second shot as well, so now they're fully vaccinated. What decision the Ministry of Health and Wellness will take in terms of that being the guidance at this point. I do recognize the fact that in some states as well, they are still proceeding with their full protocols, that notwithstanding what the CDC has put forward, they are still putting in place the use of the mask, the social distancing, and all these other measures, right? So I just wanted to put that out there since we're on the topic of COVID-19.
Yeah, it is interesting. And the other factor, which I think we haven't really touched on, is how will this impact tourism?
Yeah.
We know that for people traveling from the United States, some may come from states where they don't necessarily have to wear a mask. They don't love it. And who wants to come to a humid country and wear a mask either way, or on the beach? But they are expected to comply, and everyone is complying. What happens when you're no longer needed, it's no longer needed to wear it there, and then you come here and you have to wear it?
Yeah.
We know that this is always this is a situation that they'll have to take a look at ahead of time. But the question of mask wearing, it is hotly debated in the United States right now because of the potential harm. CDC guidelines are exactly that, guidelines. Everyone kind of the states make their individual rules as they feel fit.
Yeah.
But how do you know who's fully protected? How do you know who's fully vaccinated? It takes me back to that movie, I Am Legend, where people wore, was it I Am Legend?
I believe so.
Probably one of those end of the world movies where people wear bands to prove that they have been vaccinated. That's not the kind of world we're living in, and there's no real way to know who has been. I don't know if people look at you and they say maybe you're vaccinated, maybe you're not. So that's really the question there.
Do you wear a special tag or something that identifies you as having been fully vaccinated?
Yeah. So, but thankfully we aren't there yet. Our COVID protocols still say you must wear your mask, and so that is still being enforced.
And while we're on the topic of COVID still, The curfew has been extended, as far as we are made to understand, by another 30 days, right? So that while between Monday and Thursday, well, Sunday and Thursday, we're supposed to be indoors in our house by 10 o'clock, and Friday and Saturday we have up until 12. That continues for another 30 days. So that came from a statement that was made by the Commissioner of Police over the weekend. I presume that this comes either following or before a new statutory instrument that formally puts that in place as such, Marlene.
Yeah.
So
All right.
that's what we're looking at. And of course, the strike continues, but we'll leave that conversation for...
yeah. But we do have to make note that we have gotten early reports of blocks on the highway. The situation, you know, we got word late last night that there was a possibility of potential blocks on the highway as continuing strike action, as the strike actions continue. And we don't have all the details as yet as to who created these blocks. We do not have all the information as to what the intention is behind it. The assumption is that it's tied to the strike, but we're going to be joined by union leaders in just a few, so we'll be able to clarify with them whether this is a part of their protest actions.
Yeah. So that's where we are with the Eye on the News for today. Certainly you can catch us at 6 o'clock, where you can have a look firsthand at some of the stories that we've discussed this morning that will make the evening newscast. So that's it for the Eye on the News.
All right, and as we said, we are getting ready to move into our show for today, and we are going to get the latest as to what is happening or what's coming out of the union meetings that were held over the weekend. Just as a recap, the government presented their proposal as to what they hope the unions would accept, and that happened on Thursday. Union leaders then went back to their membership, and this morning we'll get an update as to what these early indications are coming out of those meetings.
And our second conversation is the topic of adult and continuing education. We're going to be joined by a panel of 3 persons who are going to discuss with us programs that they have in place for adults to complete high school. So that's going to be our second conversation of the day.
All right, we're going to go ahead and take a break, but before we do, we got a birthday shout out, and we are saying happy birthday to
Lyle Talbert.
All right, Lyle, we hope you have a great day today. That comes from all of us here at Channel 5 and Open Your Eyes. All right, we're going to take that break, and when we come back, we'll be joined by representatives of the Public Service Union, the Belize National Teachers Union, and the Association of Public Service Senior Managers. So please, stay tuned.
Continues to expand its internet coverage countrywide to help you live a smarter life.
Our villagers are very happy. They are pleased to know that Smart went the extra mile to put a tower in our village so that our villagers can get live stream on their TVs and they can get their kids doing their online classes. I want to say to Smart, thank you for making it possible for us to get internet in Gardena Village. We really do appreciate it.
Smart continues to take the internet and mobile services to communities across Belize. Now save even more when you bundle your Smart broadband with Smart mobile services. Smart, bringing people together.
As one of the largest cable and internet providers in Belize, CBC strives to provide our customers with the highest standards of quality, value, and service in all aspects of cable TV and internet. Monitoring our systems closely, Our technicians combine creative planning and state-of-the-art technology with years of experience and training to develop and provide the most reliable and advanced cable and internet service to exceed your expectations. For CBC and our team of talented engineers, technicians, and customer service representatives, delivering less than the very best is never an option.
In these challenging times, the one thing that is certain is that the Belize Bank Limited is here for you. There is nothing more important than your health and safety, and we continue to make every effort to make banking safer for you. Our staff is working around the clock to make sure you can do your banking conveniently 24/7 using our mobile banking app and online banking and keeping ATMs up and running. We value your relationship with us and are here to provide the support you need. First responders are also out there 24/7. Thank you, healthcare workers, security forces, firefighters, caregivers. You are all appreciated. Stay safe. We will get through this together. The Belize Bank, our country, your bank.
Hi, I am Rosanna Briseño. I am happy to see that the rollout of the COVID-19 vaccine has begun all over our nation. If we are to get back to some kind of normalcy, if our golden citizens will be better protected, and if our children are to go back to school, then we need to get vaccinated. I believe in the COVID-19 vaccine, and when my turn comes around, I will get vaccinated. I urge you to take it too. #GetVaccinated_Belize.
It is my time
to protect your life.
Don't wait to vaccinate.
I believe in the COVID-19 vaccine.
The vaccine is the best way to protect lives.
Don't wait, vaccinate.
Don't hesitate, Belize.
Vaccinate. Be COVID-19 safe.
If you care,
Love them.
Protect them.
Vaccinate them.
Today's COVID update is brought to you by Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price but stay for the service.
And welcome back. We begin our first conversation this morning with an update from the Joint Unions Negotiating Team as to where they are in the ongoing discussion with the government of Belize and, of course, the continuing strike that is taking place in light of the 10% and, of course, the increment freeze and several other good governance issues that the unions want to see put in place. That being said, we have been joined by Senator Elena Smith. She is the president of the Belize National Teachers Union. We've also been joined by Chief Magistrate Sharon Fraser, who's the president of the APSSM, and Gerald Henry. He is the president of the Public Service Union. Good morning, guys.
Good morning, Isani.
Good morning, Isani. Good morning, Marlene. Good morning, Belize, especially our public officers and teachers.
All right.
So let me just jump in and ask the first question. Are the unions behind the blocks that are on the highways at this time?
Well, I'm sure you are seeing what people out there, Marlene, so.
Okay.
This is an indication that the strike continues today?
Yes, it does.
All right.
Where are we in terms of the discussions that were held over the weekend? I know you guys met. A new course of action perhaps has been put in place. Can you provide us with an update as to where we are?
Well, I guess by now you would have realized that we received a letter of government's undertaking with various things that they have committed to. While the letter was sent to the three of us by the cabinet secretary, we're of the view that it was addressed to the whole, the country and the world. In fact, this information was put out there before any of us had an opportunity to look at it, to share it with members, to be able to get a sense of where they were or would have been prior to the meeting that we had on Thursday. So that I can say for me, I didn't even get a chance to read it when, in fact, the Prime Minister was on the air talking about what was in there, so that I would have had no opportunity to speak to my members. And at the end of the day, I had said to them, well, what can I say? The Prime Minister have said it all. I think this might have upset some members, because the feeling was that there was a joint team that was meeting with the ministers in this matter, and yet, while I cannot say it wasn't sent to us, what I can say is, at least for me, everybody else would have heard it, I guess maybe the same time or even before me, who has been sitting around the table, who has been trying to get the members who I represent to accept, or at least to go along with whatever proposals that have been put to us, but now being placed in a position where I wasn't sure what to do in relation to approaching this matter, because I myself didn't have time to process it when it was put out there to the world. I think these are some of the things that are really affecting the consultation, the negotiation, whatever it is you want to care for all intents and purposes, the consultation. These are some of the things that are affecting it and are actually making our jobs very difficult in relation to approaching our members, to try to resolve this matter.
How does it make it more difficult? One of the things that the Prime Minister noted was that he was in fact putting it out for everyone to know what the government would be putting on the table. You said that this makes your interaction with your members more difficult. Can you explain why?
Because at the end of the day, at least, and I will speak from my perspective, in this new letter on undertaking, there were things in there, like for instance, the performance-based bonus, that for the first time we were seeing any of this. When we go to our members, they expect us to come with everything, giving them full disclosure. When the Prime Minister would have made, in his wisdom, to make his presentation, members are now feeling that we are keeping things from them. The last thing we went with was a proposal as it relates to compensation by way of promissory note. So no, that was actually taken off the table without any discussion with us. And a new position was put that we knew nothing about. First time I saw that is when, or heard that, is when I was listening to the Prime Minister in his presentation. And if I'm to be reporting, I try to report as best as I can, because that is the only way in giving full disclosure that I can put myself and the members I represent in a position to make informed decisions.
Is it to say, Chief Magistrate, that the move that was taken by the Prime Minister on Thursday of last week, if I'm not mistaken, has served to sort of divide or create a sense of loss of confidence between the union members and its leadership? Is that the effect of it?
For some, yes. Others, we would have had an opportunity to say, well, first time I'm seeing it, I can't bring to you what I don't know. I can only bring to you what I know.
So for you, it was something that hurt the process for you. Let's get the other unions. Did the preempting of the information before going back to the negotiation table on Thursday hurt or help the interactions that you have with your individual members? Let's start with you, Senator Smith.
Well, I think as Mr. Shaban said, it did hurt. And we have been hearing, comments that this was done because the leaders were not presenting to the membership all the information. And that is nowhere true any at all. As a matter of fact, the other leaders can tell you that because we have presented our members the entire package, just as they have given us, we have been accused by our own members of supporting the government, of trying to force them to accept what the government is saying, and all of those kinds of comments, because we go to them and we present to them exactly what the government side presents to us. So what it also did to us was that whenever we go into these negotiations, we go with a mandate from our members. So our members tell us beforehand, what are things that they would accept and whether they would accept or not. At this point in time, there was no time for us to go back to our membership to even try to explain to them what that meant, because we didn't have that information. So we couldn't share anything with them as to what that meant and what it was for them. So for that reason, then we could get money from our members to say we accept, we don't accept, and we could explain to them what that entire process was about.
What appears to be somewhat ironic is the fact that a week ago, you guys were on the show with us, and I believe it's the chief magistrate who was saying, well, you know what? The prime minister needs to join the discussion and come and sit with us and go through the process of negotiation. And then on Thursday, he makes a public statement. The question is, was there ever that conversation with the PM prior to this statement being made on Thursday?
No, unfortunately, no. I think that in his wisdom, he did what he believed was best for him and his cabinet, based on what we were told. It was a cabinet decision. But at the end of the day, I think it is important that rather than, and I'm not saying that the 4 representatives are not taking back exactly what we are discussing in our meetings, but I'm saying that at least once, maybe it is he needs to come and physically be a part of the process so he can understand clearly where we are coming from. We are not here to undermine his administration or the government, because in doing so, we basically would be undermining ourselves. We are here to make this work. We are here to see how we can go forward. It is not that dealing with members are not always the easiest thing. Each of us have our own opinions, but as I've said, when we represent bodies, we have to go with the collective of what the members are saying. And I know I have done my darndest to ensure that the persons who I represent get a full picture of where we are, why it is, from my understanding, government is taking this position, and then it is for them to tell me what they believe as a body we should do, what we should support, what we shouldn't support, and taking into account that in fact we are joint unions representing similar, if not interests, for the good and the betterment of Belize. So that's where we are. It's not that we want to fight. Nobody wants, at least I don't want to fight. I believe that one could always sit down, and with negotiation, you win some, you lose some. But at least persons want to feel that it is a meaningful process. And I'm not saying that it's not. The meetings we've had, we've been able to have meaningful discourse. The representative have heard us, we've heard them, and we take exactly what comes out of those meetings as best as we can deliver it.
So let's get an update. You spoke with your members, President Fraser, and you're saying that they have indicated, is it a majority or is it across the board unanimously deciding to move ahead with the strike?
No, while it is that they are of the view that we are operating as joint unions, at this point I still am not able to say whether or not what their feelings are, or in terms of from the majority, whether what is the position.
For APSSM.
From APSSM. Remember that we are trying to process what is actually meant by this performance-based bonus that has been offered to us, how it will work. So at the end of the day, I think that what I'm gathering from my members, that they are satisfied at least with the measures of the good governance legislation. At least they are satisfied with the progress thus far. They're still concerned about their loss, their 10% loss, but we are still processing. Yes, you might say, yes, we're small and easier to get to, but
I was going to ask how many
to understand what exactly we're getting or not getting.
I appreciate that you spoke of being small, and I wanted to get the responses to what members are saying. The APSSM is the smallest union. How many members do you have?
I cover about 50.
Okay.
Between 50, 60 HOD and senior managers.
And at this point, you want more, your membership, they're saying they want more information about the performance-based.
Well, they're asking questions.
Yes.
So that I cannot say, while you have some that would have said they don't support continuing strike, that is not the majority. So that I'm in no definite position to say we go forward, but there are others who are saying, okay, but we are part of a joint union.
Okay.
So that, I'm really trying to get some definite answers as it relates to that.
So no firm position coming out of APSSM as yet. Let's move to President Henry, who would be the medium-sized union or membership before we move on to the BNTU, which is the largest. President Henry, you have how many members and what are they indicating at this time?
All right, morning once again. So I think we are heading towards a bit closer towards 3,000 since we have been getting a lot of recruits in the last couple weeks or days now. And what our membership has been saying is that, similar to Sister Fraser, there are some who have been, leaning towards stopping the strike. But I think that so far the majority, especially in our last round of consultations, that almost went unanimously and with great emotions to continue the strike. And so, hence the reason, PSU is now, continuing with the industrial actions.
And for the BNTU, Senator Smith, what are your members saying? You are how many members?
Just about close to PSU as well. And growing. But we had our meetings as well, and we took our teachers there to consult with our membership. And we have the majority of our members across the 10 branches saying that the strike should continue. They're not satisfied with what has been presented, how it has been presented, and some of the offers that are being put on the table for us.
What is your position on the notion that your salaries will now be docked as a result of the ongoing strike action? I know that perhaps there's a clear legal parameter for that, but what is your take on what is being put forward there?
Well, Lisani, our members are saying to us that if it is that we don't stand up and address this matter now, then things can only get worse. And so they are willing to stand up and address this matter at this point in time.
Senator Smith, but that's an interesting issue, because technically, and based on the last strike, we learned this, the government can't cut the pay of teachers. Am I wrong?
That's correct.
Okay. So because it's actually the management that pays teachers.
Correct. And the letter from the PM made it very clear that we would be paid up to the 14th, and thereafter we would not be paid. And so I don't know where the PM got that authority, but that's in his undertakings that he sent to the unions.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
In 2016, this was an issue that went to court as to whether or not government can actually cut the pay or instruct for the cutting of salaries for teachers. So you have that ruling there. Now, when it comes to public service, they can. And President Henry, tell me what your members feel about continuing with strike action today, knowing that they won't be paid for work.
Right. Well, like I said just a while ago, the emotions were extremely high with our public officers who are insisting that we need to maintain the course of action that we are taking, simply because we don't believe that we have already pretty much processed the performance the aspect of the performance, as Sister Fraser mentioned a while ago, where we'll be getting compensated for our salaries being adjusted based on performance. Those we believe that are unrealistic in terms of meeting them, and even if we do meet them, what we'll actually get back is little to nothing now. And so our public officers are looking at it simply from a mathematical perspective, where it's best to sacrifice 5 or 10 days or whatever it may take to get this train off the track, and to rather than to have 10% of your salaries for 3 years in the first instance too, because we are not even sure if there will be anything after that. And then also the issue of the increments, and the fact that when the government has stated clearly that when it is that we do ever get back or to the point of reinstating the salaries 100% and the increments, that we will not be placed on the point of the pay scale that we should be placed. We would be placed, to make up that gap, which would then pretty much relate to last for your entire career. Over whatever the years that you have left. So for some of those junior public officers, they would be losing those 3 years or 4 years or 5 years or whatever amount of time that it takes the government to decide that they are going to give us back our salaries in full for the rest of the career, which could span 15, 20. 25 years for some of the ones who just entered the service, right? So it's best that you sacrifice 5 days or 10 days of salary than the alternative, which is 10% that you can't afford right now for the next 3 to 5 years.
What is
it's just a matter of the maths, no?
But in addition to that, Marlene, to what Brother Henry just said, we had raised that matter with the government side, and we were told that they were in agreement with that members would have been placed back on their correct point on the scale, you wouldn't have been given any retro pay for that period, but you would have been placed back on the correct point on your scale after the end of the increment freeze. So we took that to our members because they said yes, they are agreeable to that. We took it to our members. Our members were willing. As a matter of fact, our members accepted that is fine. They can accept that, and so it was just the other package that we needed to deal with. And to come back to the table to hear and say, well, you know what? No, we can't do that anymore. We're not going to do that. That is going to cost us, so we can't do that. It's like you already told us yes. We went to our members, we get them to approve, and we were coming back with approval on the last proposal. So in our view, Thursday's meeting would just have been to hear Cabinet's decision on the promissory note, because we already had a affirmative position from our members, and if both sides were on the same page, then that could have been the last meeting where we would have finalized all of those agreements. Only to come back to the table to find out that those things that they had said to us, yes, we are in agreement with, they came back and said, well, no, we're not going to be doing that. So when our members were amenable to those things, it put us all the way back again, because we have to now go back, now with really and truly an empty hand, where we had already gone to them with these proposals to say, government has accepted these, they are willing to take these, so we are good with this, and our members were satisfied with that. It's a different story now. So it's like we're starting all over again based on the decision that they that they made at their last meeting.
That being the
case,
just
to quickly to respond, based on what Sister Elena said a while ago too, because it falls in line with what was asked a bit earlier that I didn't get a chance to respond to now, which is the issue of the government keep moving the line in the sand. That has actually was only effective in the beginning, where our public officers or members felt as if though we were not taking back the information to them, and we were essentially being untruthful and so on. But I think that since the government has repeatedly done this several times now, the majority of our membership has realized that it is not the case that we are not taking back the information. It's just simply the case that the government keeps redrawing the line in the sand. And so all that is happening currently, at least I can speak maybe from my perspective, is that only the mischief makers now and those who have political biases are the ones who are trying to use this to cause trouble, right? But I think that the majority of our membership has realized that, this is not an issue that our leaders are not bringing back the information to us. It's simply that the government keeps drawing the line, again in the sand, and all that it does is that it increases the level of distrust that has already been so extremely high over the past decades, with our politicians, and it does not help the situation. As Sister Elena mentioned a while ago, I believe myself that we were at certain points, very, very close to achieving, an agreement, and then out of nowhere, there comes the government changing the position again.
Well, the
right?
question I have on that issue is this. You sit as the joint negotiating team along with the negotiating team from government. Is it a matter of them not having the government representatives, although they are ministers? Is it that they don't have the decision-making powers, that what they are committing, perhaps when they take it to cabinet, is turned down or changed to something else? Because how do you go from having the promissory note on the table to subsequently it is no longer a part of the conversation? The Minister of State and the Ministry of Finance said he was completely unaware that that was something on the table. So there seems to be a gap as well on the government side.
Go ahead, Sister Elena.
I think I'm sure my colleagues will recall, Marlene, at that meeting that we had when that matter was discussed. We ended up in a caucus. And upon return from that caucus, we were told by the ministers that, okay, we had our discussions and we called the boss, because, we have to hear from the boss. And so, yes, we'll work this out. So we left from that meeting believing that, okay, that seemed to be something that would come true because the boss said it was okay. Then to come back now and say, well, okay, well, to hear the minister who wasn't in the meeting get on the TV and say, well, that can't happen, and that I wasn't there, but that is like, well, really? But then the ministers had a caucus and they called the boss, and the boss said, okay, we can proceed. So you left from that meeting believing that this was it because the boss had given the okay, just to come back, well, not even come back, just to hear in the Prime Minister's address to the world that they were now offering something else that we had no clue about.
Yeah, you're perfectly right, Sister Elena. That is exactly what happened, and that is something that I believe, would have been expected from us, because we have to go back to so many persons, and we have to actually go back to them and have these consultations and so on, and then get the mandate from our bosses, right? So it would be easier, I think, that if you had only one boss, right, to when that boss say, this is the way we are going, that is the way that the direction that you're taking. Unlike us, we have thousands of bosses, right? And we have to poll them and all of that. So we would not have expected that, these fluctuations would have maybe been taking place with us at the union level, but that's not the case. And Sister Elena said just a while ago that we did get, and that's what I'm saying, that we have been getting these points where we believe that there's a breakthrough, only to find out that the very next communication that we get, the situation has changed completely.
Let me ask the following question, Brother Henry. How has this impacted the morale of the membership and, of course, the momentum of the activities being taken under this strike?
Well, I can tell you for us, that it seems to have energized, a great portion of the membership, to maintain and to even, increase the intensity of the actions. We have not reached to a certain point just yet. We are still climbing in terms of our intensity, and that will be seen over the week to come, right? But so the morale, it has affected them, in an adverse manner for us to be able to resolve this matter, right? So we need to let the government understand that, man, we have to take, when we go into these consultations, these discussions, that don't move off the point that you gave us a commitment to, because it actually, it doesn't help the process, and we keep telling them that. It does not help the process when they change the goalposts or draw a new line in the sand.
You said that the Public Service Union has picked up steam. That membership jump that you're talking about, I didn't miss it. You said it's just been over the past few weeks that people have been jumping onto or getting involved with the Public Service Union, right?
Well, we have seen an increase in the membership. And it's significant enough for us to realize that this situation is actually the catalyst for that. And so, but the amount of persons that have been joining, has been incremental so far. No, I say exponential so far. So we expect that we'll see a significant growth by the time this issue is over, hopefully sooner than later.
There are some who watch the process unfold, and as you said, you feel that government is moving the goalposts because the negotiating team commits to one thing, and then you see the Prime Minister making a public statement offering something completely different. But I think early last week, the union seemed to be saying that, okay, if the salary cuts is going to go ahead, we still want the good governance measures. Now the good governance measures are on the table, but you're still proceeding with strike action. So how do you respond to people who say, well, maybe you're moving the goalposts now?
No, what happened is that in our review, at least from my perspective of the drafts that have been presented so far, they're simply that. They're just drafts, they're just words on paper, but the analysis that I've gotten from a legal mind, you know, is pointing towards that the actual force behind it, or what we refer to the teeth of the legislation, that it is you know, only gum right now. There is no much teeth to it, and we need these legislations not to be, you know, not just to have legislations.
Yeah.
We need those to have impact, and the impact that are desired from them, right? Because if you don't have the wording right, and to be enforceable, and to have the impact that we want, that the government and in fact the people and the country of Belize need for these legislations to have, then they are not worth the paper that they are written on. Right? And that is the reason why we are.
But doesn't that play right back into government's argument that it couldn't have been rushed if it was going to be an all-encompassing, proper written legislation?
Well, the review only took, to be generous, I think the review from that lawyer took maybe a week, maybe a week, and the changes that he has been suggesting are like changes like one sentence, or maybe just including one word that would give the legislation teeth. It's like, you know, and so, you know, these things are legal documents. We are not legal minds, but you know, and you guys would appreciate that one word makes a huge difference when it comes to law.
Oh,
right?
yes.
And for them to give us these legislations that, man, you don't have one word in there that would make a huge difference. To me, you know, for me, it's suspicious, because shucks, man, one word, you know, and so. Yeah, you know,
so that's PSU on the good governance measures. Let's get President Fraser back in and get some comments on the draft legislations that have been put forward.
As far as the good governance, I can tell you that was in fact one of the bigger issue for my members. So as I said before, there are at least expressing some satisfaction, at least for the stage that we are now, but have been insisting that we need to push for not just having the legislation, but for implementation, to put in the necessary regulation, so as to give it the kind of effect that is our hope. While I can say that from the beginning, and my colleagues can attest to the fact that we're dealing with a special class of people. We're dealing with heads of department, senior managers who would have a little bit more intimate knowledge of the finances, particularly in areas like Ministry of Finance and Economic Development and those areas, so that they're seeing the more critical position of where we are as a country. So besides what has been told to us by government, they're also seeing what is there on the ground. And I think that, and that is why I suggested earlier that maybe it would have been good for the Prime Minister to actually come to a meeting to see what is taking place. Because when you seeing makes, and actually being there actually makes a difference. So I have members who are saying to me, listen to me, we really understand the financial situation, and if it is that we need to lose our 10, we can't afford it, but if we're to lose it, we need to ensure that the good governance measures are in place. We need to ensure that the cost saving measures, the revenue enhancement measures are there, so that once there are those commitments, I have members who are saying that they're prepared to say, okay, fine, we understand the situation. And for us, the compensation is not, while it's important, don't get me wrong, it's not as big as a factor for them as it is for other members. So, but you're talking about people with unique issues. We come from a unique position, and there are always times when, in fact, we'll have issues unique to APSSM, unique to PSU members, and unique to BNTU members. So that, and we try to meet somewhere in the middle in terms of putting together a unified position. But just to reiterate the fact that we have members who are saying, okay, if they put in the good governance and we hold them to the fire, then let's move on. Let's do the review, right? That's what some members are saying. And that is why I think I'm where I am, where I'm unable to say with any definitive position where APSSM is, because I'm getting mixed reviews as far as where do we go next. Yes, they still want the good governance, they want the implementation, and ultimately some are still saying, I really can't afford it. But if this is the situation the country is in, then let's see how we can make it work, at least from the perspective of APSSM.
Senator Smith, I wanted to get Senator Smith's reaction here on that same issue. When people say, okay, you asked for the good governance measures and now you've gotten it and you're still not satisfied, how do you respond to that? I'm not sure if she's
Sorry, I forgot I was muted. Sorry. Remember, we had said in the beginning, it's not just about the cut, because that is a part of it, yes. But there was also this issue of good governance, and like Mr. Shawan said earlier, there are some persons who were willing to accept, if you will, the cut, if it is that these good governance issues were put in place and that they were satisfied with those. Whereas we had a majority saying, listen, we can't afford the cut, and so we have to address the cut, but we must also address these good governance issues, because those are the things that will determine whether we get back to this point 3, 5, 6, 10 years down the road. And so it has always been a combination of those two important areas for us, the cut along with good governance. And while for some, one was more important than the other, the two areas were always on the table. And so we have to understand, I think what it is that we are not maybe saying is that initially we were having consultations regarding the budget, because they wanted for us to get a clear understanding of what the picture is.
Yeah.
Thereafter, we should have been going into negotiations. But we have not gotten to the point where at one point you ask and say, are we negotiating? Yes. And then the next time you hear, oh, but we are consulting. Oh, but it doesn't matter. We are discussing, consulting. Of course it matters. And so for you to just come and just place something on the table and say, here, this is it. You take that or you leave that. That's not how we negotiate. That's not good faith discussions. Because we have to get to a point where, as Mr. Shawan said, there has to be some give and take, and we have been getting in some give and take. But you can't just come and feel like, because you believe that this has gone on too long and you want it to end, that you come and dictate and say, here, this is it, this is my way of ending it. That's not how we operate as employer and employee. We have that authority to fight on behalf of our workers for a reason. And there's a process that we go through when we get to these kinds of situations. And so it is important that we understand how that process has been happening, because people think that the government has been just giving and giving and giving and giving, and the unions are saying, oh no, we don't want, we don't want.
So
that is not how it has been happening.
Senator Smith, let me ask you guys this. So It's on record that this is the longest strike that has been undertaken by the unions. Initially, you guys had a schedule of activities that you would continue with throughout the course of the week and what have you. It would seem at this point that you've exhausted that list, so to speak. So what happens now in terms of the activities on the ground? I know you guys have arranged for march, for protests to be held and what have you, but what else is there?
Isani, trust me, unions never exhaust the list.
Okay.
There is always things that unions are able to do or can do or plan to do as we go through these kinds of situations. So you may have a list and you may plan for a period of time because you want to be able to be ahead and to plan ahead. But it doesn't mean that because you have a 1 week plan or a 2 week plan that's the end of it. All right, planning continues, and as things change, as things begin to develop, we change our plans as well.
Well, the reason I'm asking is because I'm looking at how you're able to sustain a certain momentum if at this point perhaps it's only to gather, to walk through the streets of Belize City in protest. How do you keep the full attention and the support from union members if perhaps you're running out of certain ideas in terms of keeping the fire lit?
Remember again, we have always said that as unions, whenever we take these kinds of actions, we are always peaceful. We don't get to the point where, we broke up this and burn up that and that kind of thing. We avoid those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And so, while some people might want to see an escalation in the kind of activities that we do, we have always ensured that we do our activities responsibly. And so while for some it might not be big enough or hype up enough or whatever word they want to use, as unions we sit and we plan and we put together things that we believe would assist in our cause. And so that is how we have been operating. And so this is not for us or about us, getting to that point where that point of destruction, but for us to be able to call attention, to bring attention through our activities to what it is that is happening at this point in time. And we believe that we can still proceed with doing that beyond the point where we have been at this point in time. As I said, there are always things that we can do, even if it means repeating some of the things that we've done before.
Yeah.
It's about getting attention to our cause.
Yeah, and just to add a little bit to what Sister Elena said a while ago, we do our best to ensure that we reduce the emotional level of our public officers who may, when I say public officers, I'm actually talking in general, which include the teachers as well, of course. Some of them actually have the thought process that, man, we need to break up this, we need to burn that, we need to do the other, and we as leaders, we have to try to calm them down and to let them know that is not the way we fight. Not only because it gives us a bad image, but because also there are persons out there who are already angry, who are not public officers and so on, who would then take advantage of the situation and cause some very significant damage to property and so on of innocent persons in certain cases. The people always take advantage of riots and so on to break into stores, etc.
Yeah.
So we are very much aware of that, and we try to maintain a certain degree of respect and non-violent, of course, actions that, as Sister Elena said a while ago, just to bring attention to the matter, and we don't want to go into the realm of any sort of violence, because then that takes away from the message that we are putting out there, and actually creates more noise than anything else. And then the focus will then be on what is being destroyed in the riot, etc., as opposed to what are the actual issues that we are talking about that has brought us to the point of this impasse and so on. So
yeah, and let's not forget that it is also illegal. So
well,
I do want to
including
say that's the primary point, and I do want to say I appreciate the commitment that things stay calm, and that you are repeatedly ensuring that your membership know that this is not a situation where a strike needs to escalate, but perhaps if you are continuing to sustain as you move forward. But that's the question I have. The Prime Minister said on Thursday, as clear as possible, that this is the last best effort, the last. So from the outside looking in, it seems that your strike actions that continue today are in vain, as the head of the nation has already said, essentially, this is it. There's nothing more that can be offered.
Yeah, but like I said before, Marlene, I mean, we were at certain points where, what was put forward was much more palatable than what is in this last best, whatever term, that is used. It certainly isn't the best. It may be the last, but it cannot be the best if it is that there were several points along this journey where our members were amenable to accepting some of the positions that were put forward. So it is not the best. In fact, I would venture to say that it has been the worst. Right? So it is the last worst effort, as far as I'm aware, and I'm not sure if my colleagues would agree with me on that.
I want to just respond there, because best or worst is subjective to who's viewing it, right? So you say it's the worst, he says it's the best, but last they can make a decision on that.
Right, and we are saying that there are other things that we could have, we could discuss. That is also what I term is a hard position that they have taken, right? But if you're negotiating in good faith, then you don't reach to that point, especially when it is that you are the one who kept changing the goalposts. Right, you don't reach to that point as quickly as the government, and it has been shown over this whole time that it's the government that keeps taking these hard lines, right, and has gotten us in this impasse, right. We are the ones who have been trying to work it out. We have been bending where we could. They are the ones who, in fact, went all the way to saying that they're going to the Constitution. Right, when if we were negotiating in good faith or discussing in good faith, then that hard position would have never came up, right? But that's the reason why our membership are very much upset, and when we hear that this is the last position, when we know that prior to that there were better decisions or better options that were given to us.
How do you? But it also shows the type of leaders that we have. Because if it is that you say we are going through these good faith negotiations, discussions, consultations, and you get to a point where you are saying, this is it, I will not talk anymore, I will not do anymore, then clearly it's a reflection on you and the type of leader that you are to get to that point where you are just dictating to people and saying, this is it. We won't talk anymore about this. Is that the kind of leadership that we want to see for our country? And is that the way that a government should be dealing with unions within the country? We play a key role in our democracy. And to have a government who would come to you and say, listen, we're not talking with you anymore, that's it. Knowing that, as Brother Henry said, you were the one who changed the goalpost, then really and truly that is not a reflection on us. That is a reflection on them. And I hope that we are open enough and we are fair enough to be able to see that for what it is. Because oftentimes we want to quickly blame the unions and say, oh, it's because the unions refuse this and the unions refuse that. But how is it that we are not saying that the government now is really and truly dictating to the unions and the membership what it is that they must accept for the cut that they want to impose on us.
Is it that it makes it seem that you're being unreasonable as to why the Prime Minister took the initiative to come before the nation via a prepared statement to put forward what the government is now prepared to deal with as a matter of an ultimatum?
Well, it can't be that, Isani, because we had already agreed to some of the things that were put on the table. So if we were being unreasonable, then we would not have had any agreement at all.
Yeah.
We were having some difficulties in relation to a compensation package. And that is where we were stuck. And so I guess no, because what is it that they can't think about anything else? Is it that they feel that because they are the employers, they can now just dictate and say, this is it, and you just take it or leave it? So it has never been where we have been, unfair, or we didn't want to compromise. We have compromised.
Yeah, and we continue to be willing to compromise. But what I believe is unreasonable is for to hear our leaders of the country still insisting, and this has been a topic that has come up with our membership as well, that they are refusing to remove, for example, the telephone allowance. They're only cutting it in half. Half of that telephone allowance is $500. I have a postpaid phone that is my personal telephone. I only pay $41 per month from my postpaid phone, and I call each and every public officer who calls me off a prepaid phone using my cell phone, and my phone bill has never jumped that $41 a month.
Yeah.
How can the leaders of this country justify $500 a month for a telephone allowance, which, by the way, is 10% of some of our salaries right there? The telephone allowance itself is already 10% of some of our salaries. How can they justify getting $500 a month for telephone allowance, right? And I call, like I said, every public officer who calls me, and there are many of them out there who would testify to that. Once I see a prepaid phone number coming in, I do not answer, and I call them back, and I said, look, I'm saving you credits. Let me call you back.
And
my
it
bill
lasts
has
for
never
you.
jumped.
Now, let me before we close off, and I know I've made a practice of asking this every time we have this conversation, but we need to know and understand exactly what it will take for a resolution to this issue. President Frazier spoke of clarity on the performance bonus. I now hear you talking, President Henry, about the ministers giving up more allowance and probably taking a bigger cut. I hear the issue of the promissory note. Let's talk about what it will take for the unions to be satisfied for us to move out of this impasse.
I think what it is that we are asking for, Marlene, is that there is, as they have been saying, good faith negotiations. You are going to come to the table, we are going to sit at that table, and we are going to trash out these matters, and we conclude when we have some resolution. But the positions have to be clear and they have to be fair. Because you can't bring a position to us, we go to membership, we get approval, and then when we come back to the table, you have something different, because we are not going to reach any headway in that fashion. And so it has to be fair. If you are going to tell me, for example, that you are going to give me a bonus, but the bonus is hinged on an overperformance at a time when you are saying that, listen, things are so bad, it's also hinged on what it is that you will be doing in terms of expenditures, then how do you expect that at some point there's going to be that additional or that extra? So I believe what it is that people are looking for is to have clear proposals that we can sit down and we can actually work out back and forth between the groups. Yeah. I think Sister Shawan and Brother Henry can add to that.
Let's hear from the Chief Magistrate.
Um, well, I've already told you what our position is in terms of being satisfied with the efforts being made thus far. Not that with the, of course, with the commitment that we are going to hold government to those legislation, ensuring that they have teeth, ensuring that we can move forward. No, like Sister Elena, I think that what we most desire is that, in fact, we enter into a room where it is totally good faith, because that is what we come with. That is what we take back as far as our members are concerned. And I think that, and we've expressed to the ministers how difficult it is to go back when everything is not on the table from the beginning. I think that is where it started. If we had started with the fact that, you know what, we're coming to you, we're consulting because this is what we want to do, and that was out there from the beginning, I think we would have been at a different stage at this particular point. I continue to maintain it's a different class of workers that I represent, and ones who have asked me to echo the fact that we need to behave responsibly, that we need to do what is best for our country and for our children and our grandchildren, so that I can say that all we really need is for, once we enter into a room, is that we are taken as equal partners, and that our opinion, that our views matters, and like in any negotiation, you win some, you lose some. It's important to get buy-in from the people who have to make this process work. If you're taking away from persons, you're not putting things in place, remember these are the same persons that you have to ask to go do the implementation and the enforcement. So that if they're not satisfied, if they don't feel that they had sufficient buy-in, then as I'm thinking, we won't even meet that required target, much less, and over or surpassing the target. So I think lots of things need to be taken into consideration, and we now need to put things in place to ensure that all the commitments and undertaking that has been given can be done effectively, and hold government to their commitment. At least we've moved to a point where there are no written undertaking, and it has been announced to the world. So there is no turning back, while at the same time addressing the other sticking points that we're currently facing.
And you go back to the table, to the negotiating table or consultation table, when?
Well, there are no dates that are set, but I think it's important that even if it is we come to a consensus, that we still need to be meeting to putting these committees in place to ensure that what the undertakings that are here, that we can start the process. I think we need to start the process. We need to start down the road of recovery from yesterday, so that what we have agreed upon, I think we can start to move forward with those, and then see how we can come to some sort of compromise with what we have not agreed upon, and at least to the satisfaction of all the parties involved. But nothing is stopping us now from coming together to put together the committees, to start to put the working committees together so we can move towards recovery. This is what is important at this time.
Okay. Any any final statements before we close?
Yeah. Well, just to to give PSU's side of the what I believe it would take, and again, it's to echo or my joint sister's position with regards to the regulations, because that is the joint position that we are taking to get those good governance legislations put into effect and have the required teeth to them. That is certainly very, very, very high on the list of priorities for the union, for PSU. Another issue is, of course, being able to identify what the government could present to us to relieve public officers of the burden that the 10% will have on them and their abilities to provide for themselves and their families. I know that from the very beginning, I've been chiming the whole issue of getting the government to cause some reductions, to the utilities which they are in control of right now. And I'm not saying take 15% or 20%. If it is that they could reduce by 3% the electricity bill, water bill 5%, for example. Reduce butane that all of us use. There was even a discussion and an agreement that they were going to provide some assistance to the two bus workers bus that are presently working for in place for the public officers and teachers who commute on a daily basis. If they would subsidize those buses, it would generate significant savings for public officers. So putting those various relief efforts into the equation, would see us as public officers and teachers being able to hold on to much of the money that we are going to lose. I could tell you that the recent bus fare that I had to change from first Danriga to Belmapan, that transports commuters, public officers on a daily basis. That was reduced from $7 to $5, and that generates $80 a month savings for public officers. Yeah. If the government can subsidize those two, and it's only two buses, if they can subsidize those two buses, public officers and teachers could maybe pay $2 on the bus. Right, and that would.
You presented this to the
yes,
government.
Yes, and it was agreed upon, but it did not make it to the Prime Minister's letter, or the Prime Minister's list of undertakings.
So what happens now? In addition, we're seeing, and the images that people are seeing, these are scenes from this morning in different parts of the country. We see both green shirts and yellow shirts, indicative of PSU and BNTU at this point. Blocking roadways. But what happens after this? If there is no call back to the table, the strike actions continue? Will you be sending a response, a written response back to the government? What happens now?
Yeah, well, taking the last suggestion that we made just a while ago, the last option, yes, we will definitely be responding to the government. And yes, if it is that we are not, because remember this strike, when you go on strike, it's actually to get the other party back around the table, right? And that is all we want, as Sister Fraser and Sister Elena had mentioned, that we just simply want them to come back around the table, but come back around the table in good faith, right? And maintain that level of good faith throughout whatever the subsequent engagements will be. That's all we want, just to be treated fairly. It's as simple as that, and we're hoping that that will be done. Like I always say, I would want this to be over sooner than later. If it is that we could end this tomorrow, I would be happy to end it tomorrow. But a lot of it, or the majority of it, is actually on the government side of the court right now.
And how about the people this morning who are unable to get to work and this morning are saying they don't support you because you are now becoming an inconvenience for them?
Marlene, as we go forward, the effects of this cut is going to inconvenience much more persons. Because we keep trying to explain, and it seems as if though we are not seeing the ripple effect of what will happen here. And we keep trying to explain how it is that this cut is going to affect so many other persons, small businesses, our students in the classroom, our schools, you know, our families. Is going to have a serious ripple effect. And people, I guess, maybe when it happens, people will realize, well, whoa, you know what, I'm not selling so much of this anymore. Teachers are not buying this, but are not doing this. Then they will realize the impact that this cut will have on them as well. We keep hearing about those persons who don't have a job and how it's affecting them, and about who don't want to sacrifice. And all of those things are just put out there to divide and conquer. We are really and truly not putting out the impact that this decision is going to have on the economy. And I think that is an area that needs to be focused on, so that people will understand the long-lasting impact that it will have. So while we have persons who are not happy with us right now, imagine what will happen to those same persons after this cut comes into effect.
And that was going to be my closing question. So as you talk to the public, since you will continue to try to engage with government representatives, that's one group. As you speak to the Belizean public, what do you say to them today?
Well, Marlene, I want to speak to the fact that we're doing what we're doing, not for ourselves, but in fact based on being chosen as the representative for particular groups. As far as I'm myself, I represent heads of department and senior managers. There are people in the public who have been taking very distasteful actions against us. And I can speak for myself personally. I'm not doing this for me, so I don't understand. And I ask the members of the public just to listen carefully of what is going on. I don't expect that everyone will understand what all our collective positions are. But when it is you start to target leaders, you in fact also are creating additional problems, because members get this message and that infuriates them even more, because you cannot punish. For instance, Marlene, I can't punish you for putting out the position of Great Belize or Channel 5, when in fact you are but the spokesperson and the messenger, so to speak. So when these attacks start, it makes the process even worse. So that I want to speak to the public in terms of that, asking to stop the attacks, to stop it. It is not helping the process. And I want to reiterate, and I'm hoping that I can take the liberty to speak on behalf of my sister president and my brother president. This is not about us personally. And whatever message that comes out of my mouth is not my personal position, so that there is no need for persons to be taking attacks at me or Sister Elena or Brother Henry. This is what makes a democracy works, when people are allowed to express their views and express their views of their members. And this is the way that we let persons know what the positions are. None of us are here to fight this government or any other government for that matter. We're simply here trying to get things that will make Belize a better place.
Okay. Well, I think that's the perfect point to close off on. And we appreciate you for sharing your position with us this morning. We understand that most of the bridges this morning are blocked off, and so people do want to understand more about what it's going to take for this to be over. And of course, we'll keep on updating, and we hope you keep on providing that clarity.
I just want to make one little point, Sister. Marlene. We actually have been getting support from the private sector. Yes. And so people out there outside of the unions do understand the situation that we are in. And I just want to make the call out to them now, for them to start to show themselves. We have been having discussions. They will know who they are. And they have been indicating that they will be coming out to support the unions. And so I'm making that call to them officially now, that we are at the point that they need to start to show themselves, to let people see that this is not only the joint unions, but it is also, a part of the private sector that is joining us in our efforts that we are, especially with regards to the good governance issues.
All right.
So I'm making a public call to those private bodies to come out and show that they are in support of us. Thanks.
All right. Thank you so much. You all stay safe. And with that, we're going to go ahead and take a break, and we'll be back in a few. Stay tuned.
This COVID update was brought to you by Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service. Working off-site doesn't mean you have to be off your game. Studies have shown that simply adding a keyboard and mouse to your laptop increases productivity by 26%. Add a monitor and you'll be 35% more productive. At Fulltech Systems, we have what you need to enhance your remote work or e-learning experience. With devices such as headsets, video conferencing monitors, webcams, keyboards, mice, docking stations, all with the brands you trust. Keep connected with collaboration tools like Microsoft 365 Suite and Kaspersky, and perform efficiently no matter where you are. Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.
If we are only as strong as our families, businesses, institutions, and the communities that surround us, then by giving businesses the power to grow, entrepreneurs the ability to expand, and by giving our families the right to own something, the Belize Bank gives you the power to build a nation, our nation. Stronger together. The Belize Bank. Our country. Your bank.
Trimming the hedges and overgrown trees. Packing food supplies. Ensuring that you have medical supplies and important documents are all part of your hurricane preparations. But what about your home insurance? An insurance policy with RF&G Insurance gives you the confidence that your home and possessions are protected when a natural disaster strikes. Include RF&G in your hurricane plans and join the thousands of Belizeans who have learned why it pays to get it right. RF&G Insurance is a Roku company.
Do you need to apply for a Social Security card? With our newest online service, My Social Security, applying for a card just got easier. With a My Social Security account, you can apply for a card anytime and anywhere, putting you in control. To use this service, you must first create your My Social Security account. Visit our website. Under Online Services, select My Social Security, provide your personal information, and await activation of your new account. After activation, you are free to log in to your My Social Security account to complete your online application for a Social Security card. Be sure to book your registration appointment to finish the card application process. Gain control and truly experience Social Security at your fingertips.
It's a fact that with Smart, you get truly unlimited everything. Only with Smart, you get unlimited data anytime, while with the other guy, it's only double data on weekends. With unlimited data every day with Smart, there's no need to wait. So, it's a fact that our unlimited plans beat the competition. Stop being measured and told when to use your data and get unlimited talk, text, and data. Experience the true unlimited plans with Smart. That's a fact. Make the switch and live smart.
My name is Gerald Jones, a member of the Belize Police Department, and I believe that violence is never acceptable or excusable. We must make an effort to stop it. There is no excuses to violence.
Real men do not abuse women, girls, and children under any circumstances. Men have to set example for boys to renounce any form of violence against women and girls and put a stop to it. Our women are partners in creating a safe space for our children and their children. As men, it is our responsibility to end violence and abuse towards women. Less violence and more love.
Gender-based violence is not just a woman's issue, it is a human rights issue. Women and children should not feel unsafe in their own homes where they should feel the safest. Let us fight against all forms of violence.
I believe that no society can fully develop while marginalizing women. Development can only be successful when it is inclusive and equitable for all. The relationship between women and men must be built on equal power, real partnership, and mutual respect. If people work together, we can bring an end to gender-based violence.
I will play a role in creating a cultural and social shift that no longer tolerates violence against women, girls, boys, and other men. We all have responsibility, so I will challenge my friends, family, neighbors, and my co-workers to end gender-based violence.
And we're back, and unfortunately, we're not able to bring you the second conversation on adult continuing education, but we will have that for you later this week. In terms of an update as to what's happening outside of our studios, we had an extended conversation with the unions. The first question we asked was about their responsibility in the blocks that we're seeing across the country. And you know, it is a question of confirmation, but really, if you look out there, you see green and yellow T-shirts, and we know that this means that this is part of the protest actions. Our team is out there. I know you're about to jump into the field right now, Isani, and as far as we know, the majority of the bridges, at least in Belize City, the connecting bridges, have been blocked at this time. We are told it's not to be for an extended period, but up until a few minutes ago, it is still blocked, and traffic is blocked up on all the main highways. So we do want people to know that if you haven't head out as yet to work, or if you plan to head out, you can expect some delays along the way. We're going to be providing more updates for you on our News 5 Facebook page during the course of today, and you can look forward to the comprehensive recap in our newscast tonight at 6 p.m.
That's it.
That's it. That's all the time we have. If you would like to contact us, send us an email at oye@channel5belize.com. You can also find us on Facebook at Open Your Eyes Easy and on Instagram at oye.belize. Remember to tune in tomorrow morning at 6:30 when you open your eyes.
To start your morning right.
Until then, keep your eyes, your mind,
and your hearts open.
We'll see you soon. Enjoy your day.
¡Viva México!
Congratulations to Andrea Meza. Take your first walk as Miss Universe.
Open Your Eyes was brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.